King Edward VII faced a dreadful and agonising death on the 6th of May 1910 within Buckingham Palace. Despite reigning as king for over 9 years at the core of the British royal family, his lifestyle was far from healthy. Ascending to the throne after Queen Victoria's lengthy rule and demise, King Edward VII, formerly Prince of Wales for approximately 60 years, immersed himself in the nobility's social circles. Weekend escapades to country estates for extravagant parties earned him the reputation of a playboy prince with numerous mistresses. The consequences of his indulgent lifestyle had caught up with him, leading to a challenging demise at the age of 68. As King and Emperor of India, Edward VII succumbed to the strains of his unhealthy habits. Upon Queen Victoria's death, Edward assumed the titles of King of the United Kingdom and Emperor of India, ruling under the name of Edward VII rather than his given name, Albert Edward, as a mark of respect for his father. The circumstances leading to the king's demise began with his scheduled coronation on the 26th of June 1902. In his late 50s, 2 days before the grand event, he was diagnosed with appendicitis, a perilous condition given the limited safety of surgical procedures at the time. Surgery carried inherent risks, and the operation to remove the infected appendix was far from foolproof. Not yet crowned, Edward VII faced the possibility of not surviving the surgery. Thanks to the expertise of Sir Frederick Treves, a skilled surgeon, and the contributions of antiseptic pioneer Lord Lister, a life-saving operation was performed. The surgeons drained a pint of pus from the infected abscess on the king's appendix through a small incision approximately 4.5 inches in his abdominal wall. Although the surgery was successful, Edward VII's path to recovery was challenging. Despite positive developments in anaesthesia and antiseptics, there was a period of uncertainty. However, 2 weeks later, the king showed significant improvement, sitting up in bed and even smoking a cigar. Edward VII eventually underwent his coronation on the 9th of August 1902, around 5 weeks after the crucial surgery. As a monarch, he embraced his role in British society and global politics, finding joy in the rituals and ceremonies that came with his position. Regarded as a trendsetter, he popularised tweeds, dinner jackets, and a specific type of hat during his time. Despite his stylish influence, he also had a penchant for living on the edge. Known for extravagant breakfasts resembling banquets, he led a lavish lifestyle that included numerous mistresses, indicating a strong affinity for female company. His views on marriage were unconventional, referring to his wife as his brood mare and considering other women as his hacks, earning the moniker Edward the Caresser. He often clashed with his mother, Queen Victoria, due to his behaviour and frequent affairs. This contrasted sharply with the royal image of his father, Prince Albert. Queen Victoria even blamed him for Prince Albert's death, attributing it to the strain caused by Edward's womanising. Health issues persisted throughout his life, leading to the need for medical staff during his coronation. Recovering from surgery, he was unable to perform certain traditional ceremony rituals. He was a heavy smoker, and Edward VII consumed 20 cigarettes and 12 cigars daily, exacerbating his health problems. Dealing with a rodeo ulcer treated in 1907 and suffering from bronchitis, he faced deteriorating health. Moments of unconsciousness during state visits in 1909 and 1910 signalled a decline. Returning to England from France, where he had stayed during a political crisis, he continued to battle severe bronchitis at Buckingham Palace. In the absence of his wife, Queen Alexandra of Denmark, who had been visiting her brother in Corfu, Edward VII experienced several serious heart attacks on the 6th of May 1910. Despite the urging of royal doctors to recover, the defiant king asserted, "No, I shall not give in. I shall go on. I shall work to the end." Aware of his impending death, King Edward VII drifted in and out of consciousness. During one visit, his son, the Prince of Wales, informed him that the king's horse, the Witch of the Air, had won a race at Kempton that afternoon. Responding positively, the king's last words were, Yes, I have heard of it. I am very glad. At 11:30 p.m. he lost consciousness for the final time and was put to bed. 15 minutes later, the royal doctors declared the 68-year-old king's death inside Buckingham Palace, the very place of his birth. Queen Alexandra, the king's wife, mourned deeply and refused to allow the movement of her husband's body, permitting only small groups of visitors to pay their respects. On the 11th of May, the king, dressed in his uniform, was placed in a large oak coffin. 8 days after his death, the coffin was moved to the throne room, sealed and left in state. Guardsmen stood in each corner, watching over the body, while King George V was proclaimed the new monarch. Despite the funeral preparations, Alexandra noted that her husband's remains were wonderfully preserved, resembling someone peacefully asleep. On the 17th of May, the coffin was placed on a gun carriage and drawn by black horses to Westminster Hall. The new king, the royal family, and Edward's beloved terrier, Caesar, walked behind the carriage. A short service took place before Westminster Hall opened, allowing 400,000 people to file past the coffin. The funeral occurred on the 20th of May 1910, and it was described as the greatest assemblage of royal and rank ever gathered in one place of its kind, and the last. A royal train transported the king's coffin from London to Windsor Castle, where he was buried inside St. George's Chapel, among the other kings and queens. Despite ruling for less than a decade, King Edward VII is remembered as a peacemaker who foresaw the potential dangers of a war led by his nephew, the German Emperor. 4 years after Edward's death, World War I broke out, and the reorganisation of the armed forces and navy during his reign proved beneficial. While considered more successful than anticipated as a king, Edward VII, who came to the throne past the average life expectancy, had limited time to establish himself. He ensured his heir George V was better prepared for the role. The official cause of his death was pneumonia, but his unhealthy lifestyle undoubtedly contributed to his health issues.